wax jàmm réew mi moo gën ci réew mi wax ju bon ji day yàq réew mi jëf ju baax ji mooy def réew mi dëgg-dëgg yéen daal li wër na li ngay def man ko li ngay wax xam ko li ngay wéy xam ko li ngay wax xam ko li ngay def man ko li ngay wéy xam ko bu baax ni yu daal jàmm yi li gën civilian bi li ngay wax moom wala boog li nga nekkee.
Greetings to the Gambia and Africa. Today is another brand new edition of the conversation that comes away every Monday at this time. And the conversation is a platform that is designed to speak to young people, elderly ones, on social, moral, economic, and political issues affecting their lives and designing some of the ways to best ameliorate, or in other words, to find a lasting solution to some of these problems. And for tonight's edition on Sembiance VIP Magazine / Sembiance TV, we are in the residence of Mr. Kofa, an elderly statesman from Liberia with vast experience in both countries, that's Liberia and the Gambia. So we have come to his residence today, and it's a beautiful opportunity to be here to talk to him on few concerns about our one continent and see his own experience, what are his own thoughts regarding some of these things that can be able to help you and help my very self in ensuring our respective nations become very competitive. By extension, our continent become very competitive with other continents and countries outside our shores. Mr. Kofa, thank you very much for asking us to come here today. Can you tell the audience who is Mr. Kofa, sir?
Well, anyway, Mr. Kofa is not a stranger in this country. I've been there almost getting to 30 years. And I'm mostly known as Uncle Joe. I tell people, call me Uncle Joe. It's a lot better. I'm a construction man and also a clergyman. I'm a minister of the gospel. Okay. It's a pleasure that I am being invited to give my own views concerning our nation, Africa for the matter, continent Africa for the matter, and the West Africa in particular, because whatever affects us here, resonate all around and affect everybody. So with that in mind, maybe we can continue with our conversation.
Thank you very much. You listen to him. He's commonly known as Uncle Joe. So it's a beautiful opportunity for us to be seated with him tonight. Quickly, you look at our respective nations on the continent, almost the 54 nations. There are friction everywhere, political friction, tribal frictions and all that. Then you take a look at key Pan-Africanists that lived before our time right now, during your own generation in the 50s, in the 40s. The likes of Amilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau, the Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, the William Vakana Rashad at top of Liberia. You have the Sadauda Karaba Jawara, may his soul rest in perfect peace. You have the Nelson Mandela and several other African heads of state and government sat in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963 and spoke about the need for African unity. And exactly 56 years now, the continent has done little or nothing to be united. Where did we get it wrong, sir?
Well, there is a delicate question, but notwithstanding, we'll give our own view. Okay. We believe that there's people, the infiltration by greater powers, affecting our personal selves and a handful of few, You see, the thing is, we always say the divide and rule. By virtue of our economy, our state, and whatsoever we are going through at this time, and even before, we get easily lured with the desire of the willingness for the bigger countries, the greater countries to extend a helping hand, and by so doing, they kind of dictate to us.
Enter our system.
Yeah, they enter our system and they tend to dictate to us. And very rarely you cannot avoid it. A typical example, you're hungry and somebody has food. And he said food on the table, can't let eat. Whatsoever he puts there, what you eat and how he dictates how you go on. Else he'll take his food from you. You know, so that had a sway, you know, on our development and our own plans. Now, going back to where you started, one like Nkrumah had a very good plan. You know, he was a pure Africanist, and he wanted development. And like Cabral, or, you know, even Seda Senghor, and many other people, you know, they have very good plans, and they wanted to do it. But they were lured on by the infiltration of these greater powers, the superpowers, with their aids, you know, and by so doing, they either curtail their previous plans they had, the original plans they had, or lure them to dance to their tunes. And that kind of diminish, you know, or let's say lessen the interest, the previous interest they had. Let's go so, and they couldn't go because somebody here pulling the strings.
But just quickly, not to cut you off, we still see that a repetition of that nowadays. Our respective African nations, your own President George Weah of Liberia, once he got the mantle of authority to run the affairs of Liberia, he went to Senegal. From Senegal, he went to France to lobby, still traveling around the continent to seek support from other nations outside of this continent. It is not a problem if we seek help from other African nations, but we keep going back to the greater powers that have been the result of the degradation of our respective economies. But yet, our respective leaders keep going here and there, seeking support, financial aids, and multinational corporations and all that. Then what do we do? Current generation of Africa, what do we do to be able to amend that situation and leave that state of dormancy and take the mantle of responsibility to serve as the chief architects of our respective democracy?
You see, we need to amalgamate. We need to get together. We need to put our resources together. First, our intellectual resources, our human potentials. We need to put it together. We need to agree. You see, we all cannot be head. Neither can we all be eyes. We all can be mouth. Somebody must be head, somebody must be eye, somebody must be ear, somebody must be mouth. And then we can operate. But if I want to be mouth and you want to be mouth and that one won't be mouth, no, I must speak, we'll all go, we speak tautology. It won't get nowhere. And that is what's happening. Now, in Africa, we have money. You know, there's some countries that really, you know, advanced. They got all the economy-wise, they're strong. But they are not willing to share or help.
Look at a nation like Nigeria, South Africa, for instance.
Fine. South Africa, right now, the goal is common thing for them. But they are not willing to come down to the level of the other man. They are not willing to prop up others. Say, boy, hold my hand and let's go on together. So as such, where do you go? You end up going to the people, although they're beating you, they're cursing you, but they're willing to give you.
Wow. That is sad for our continent. Do we have a hope as a continent?
Well,
where does it lie?
We believe that one day soon, you know, by virtue of events that transpired, you know, and other leaders that come up, one like the later, Mugabe. You know, although people seem not to look at him, you know, per se, you know, with his intentions and what in his ideals, but notwithstanding, there are few who are looking back and trying to retrace his efforts. Zimbabwe used to be Rhodesia.
Yes.
And it was a British colony. And Iron Smith got up and declared independence, and they did nothing to him. And they were there. But when Mugabe came on the scene and declared independence, everybody fought him because he was black. He had nothing to give. He was taking that which they had, which was theirs. And everybody crying down. Then they created their mummy. What his name? That fat man who died too. What his name? I'll call it name. Okay. They created him, and he started challenging, you know, Mugabe. And then they started defamation and all that in there. But I believe if at that time we have 5 or 6 more like Mugabe's, we'll go forward.
Okay.
You see, because he was determined. Else, Zimbabwe would have been Rhodesia till today.
Let's look at what is happening in South Africa, a nation that was hugely supported by almost all of Africa, if not all of Africa. during the liberation struggle there, during the apartheid regime and all that, Nigeria being the most powerful nation at the time that supported immensely financially in all dimensions. Today, South Africa, that is expected to be one of the most hospitable nations on the continent, if not the most, has turned her back on other foreign nationals from other African countries residing in South Africa, killing them and then vandalizing the properties in the name of stealing their wives and stealing their jobs. Do you call that a betrayal to all of Africa?
In essence, that's a gross betrayal and a gross insult to the efforts, the role played by African nations at that time. But again, you look at it, you will really see that it is not the intellectuals that are creating this havoc. It's the non-conformist people who are not prepared to do anything. Though they might have the education or whatsoever, but they don't want to apply it. You see, the government cannot employ everybody. The Nigerians they are chasing, they are killing, are people that set up themselves. They get in businesses. Why don't they get in businesses too? The banks are there. If they are not creditworthy, then they blame themselves. But these are the people that are creating this havoc. These are the people and they always start with the children. With the people who are just like me, the lazy drones, who are not prepared to do anything. They always find flaws. They always find mistakes. Or they always find, excuses. Oh, you see that one? You can do something. The road is wide. The business in South Africa, the business road is wide. The potential is there. Get somewhere, start something, and get somewhere. But they talk about people taking their job. What job they're taking? How many people can South Africa employ?
So now this has continued for a very long time now. It's not the first time, not the second time. It's almost becoming very habitual of South Africa now. What message do you think South Africa's actions send to other smaller countries, other smaller nations that are hospitable to other foreign nationals residing in the country? What message does it send South African action currently?
Well, I would say it's a twofold answer. It could be pro or con, it could be good or bad. But we believe that Africa, West Africa, East will not copy. Because it's been a norm in South Africa, they've been fighting, killing each other for no reason. And we are not going to copy it. Okay. We are not going to copy it. You see, we will not even encourage our youth to copy it. Okay. What is happening in South Africa, as I said before, they don't want to invest their time. They don't want to do anything. They just want to sit down and be fed. The white people, they got diamond, they got gold there, and they expect to go collect it. But it doesn't fall on the streets. You have to work
for that.
Fine, you have to labor for it. So if you don't want to labor for it and you want to sit and cross your hand and expect to have a silver spoon in your mouth, it's a lie. So now what we will say here is we pray to the Almighty God that our kids will not follow. But we will track our footsteps to doing something worthwhile. Be very articulate. We spell it out and we go for it. And not to be, we can, see, in Africa West and other areas of Africa, we cannot disassociate ourselves from other Africans.
Not at all.
We accept each other. We find African from other African countries very prominent in our countries, in our government for that matter. So you see, we cannot disassociate ourselves from all these things. We have accepted it. It's an accepted norm in our part of country. And they ought to know that. South Africa ought to know that. Yesterday, Africa died for them. And this is the time that they should reciprocate, most especially so at this time that they have that leadership in their hands. Otherwise, people will look down on them. That they fought for it to no avail. They're abusing it. They're not using it wisely.
Do we have any expectation from institutions like the ECOWAS that is responsible to breeding peace on the continent? Do we have any expectation regarding the situation right now? Do you think there is something they can do about it? Because in past time, it has almost become a very feeble institution, just existing for the name's sake. But with what is happening in South Africa, is there anything they can do about it? Do you have a message for that?
You see, the thing is, normally people take things for granted. But when we get to crisis, when we get to crucial point, people get up and act. People get up, the South Africans themselves are already raising their voices against that practice, xenophobia. It's nonsense. And bit by bit, the fact here is most the people in the higher ups are kind of careful with their position because they know they need the electorate to get them there. You see, but you don't have to just because your mother is dying, so you start kissing the doctors behind. It doesn't make sense. When they like you, they will elect you. They don't want to elect you. That's that damn business. But tell them the truth. Create the situation, that everybody can fit in somewhere. Advise them. Open up. They got the how they call it the trade ministry. They got the industrial. Yeah, open up industries for them.
Decentralization of the.
Fine. Let it not be only in Pretoria or in Johannesburg, but take it to them and get them to do something. Improve their setting. Improve their environment. Give them something to do there. They know all of them will not migrate to Johannesburg, Pretoria, and the neighboring. They'll have something to do there, and that will cut down the kind of terror that the situation is posing now.
Thank you for that very wonderful response. We're talking to an edited statement from Liberia with vibrant experience in the Gambia of more than 30 years in this country. And we are in conversation with him on Zambians VIP magazine / Zambians TV to get his own thoughts on the issues that are unfolding in our one continent and designing some of the ways in ensuring that we become very, very peaceful, comfortable, and competitive to making our continent a far more better one. Quickly, let's become very nationalistic a bit in the Gambia here. There is a huge wave of the masses, also with the coalition team that brought Adama Barrow to the presidency. And there was a principle that guided them, that is the coalition agreement, which is otherwise known as the gentleman agreement, that immediately after he will have spent 3 years, he should step down and another person takes over. But then the constitution also says that the president is, he takes the mantle of responsibility to serve the Gambian people for 5 consecutive years. And the masses say that come December, Adama Barrow has to step down to respect the gentleman agreement. What's your thoughts about that? Which of the two scenarios you think deserve greater attention and must be respected?
Well, there's a saying that says a wise changes. The fool in this way will never part. And they say this is a head that wears a crown. Okay. You can never tell the condition, situation, and scenarios you encounter daily being as a leader. And that may have prompted him to desire to finish his time. I don't think anything wrong with that. All we need at this time is let him come, have a forum to, peacefully dialogue.
T-shirts have been printed by those that are designing the protest for December. They're quite too ready in the next 3 months to hit the streets to ensure that they speak truth to power, that Adama Barrow respects the voice of the masses, to ensure that the gentleman agreement becomes restored and that he steps down. So what you witness what happened in Liberia and other nations of the continent. Do you think the Gambia is ready for that? Do they need that right now?
You see, that's when you start the protest. And you go around it vehemently by force. It must be by force. It's either dog or no dinner. Then you're creating an avenue for the non-conformists. The ones that have no hope, no future. They got nothing in to play. They have, diabolic.
What's the best way forward?
You see, so what they need to do is to resolve it. They have the parliament. They have the judiciary. Get the leaders. They have the ministers. They have the statement, religious statement and other elders. Get them, have a forum. If it takes a month, go through it. Lay your cards on the table and, peacefully dialogue. Maybe you will see his side, why he's contending. There must be a reason. But we don't have to protest and bring the boys in and they start ravaging the streets, ravaging people's stores, burning cars and things. They will go back to the old scenario, like what we had in Liberia. It was the same thing. Let Chucky come and let the monkey go. Okay. Chucky come, monkey go. The monkey was Doe. Okay. And Chucky was Charles Taylor at the group. Okay. And what happened? Here we're all in exile. Yeah. We're all scattered. No winner. We all lost.
Lost.
They kill our children, they kill our mothers. You see people take your mother and throw her in the well, or pregnant woman, they call her and catch her, tie her, say, tap here. Then they bet, hey, is she pregnant, a boy or girl? Or $50, $50. Then they cut the woman's stomach. The woman is dead, the baby is dead, and nothing happens. And that's what happened.
You destroyed our country.
It happened in Sierra Leone. People come, they ask you want short sleeve or long sleeve because of dissatisfaction. When they could easily resolve it. Go sit down and ready to bring some people and bring some sense into the masses. Look, you don't have to revolt. You don't have to protest. Be calm. We will resolve it. And you can talk it out. You will see his side. He will see your side. And amicably come between in the middle somewhere and draw a line. And come in there. It's okay. We agree. This is what we do.
Thank you. Just to throw more light on what he's saying is a very crucial point here, because there's a political friction in the country regarding the national government wanting to respect the Constitution, the 5 years mandate, whereas the citizenry, who are actually the bosses, are saying that respect the gentleman agreement. An edited statement from Liberia, Mr. Kofa, CKA Uncle Joe, says that it is important that national government with all ministers and religious leaders sit on the round table and have a dialogue. Yes, come on the table and have a dialogue in the name of peace instead of protest or agitation and agitation and agitation. We understand that power belongs to the people, but what is important is that peace is the best way forward. Under the sound of our voice, I'm seated here in conversation with Uncle Joe, and we're quite too happy to be with you tonight. Quickly, there's a huge wave of young people leaving this continent on a daily basis through Libya. On high sea, some cannot even swim, but they have to become practical swimmer just to go outside here in Italy, to Spain and Germany in search of greener pastures and all that. You see crimes all over the place, not only limited to Liberia. You see Nigeria, the greatest economy in our continent, still struggle with tribal distractions and all that. What do we do? What do African leaderships do to make sure that our young people do not escape from our continent, can stay here and become responsible to developing their respective nations? What's the best way forward, sir?
You see, what I look at, the people going out for greener pastures, most of them are not educated. And if they are educated, they're halfway or even fully educated, they have nothing to do. There are no jobs, the industries cannot take them all in. Some of them don't, they only how they call it, the bumpsters, tailing the white ladies and what have you. And as such, there's nothing to do, there's no jobs, and they figure they can go out there and do. And most of them go abroad and do a trade in these illicit drugs. And when they are caught, they send them back.
But we employ government to be able to manage our affairs, to provide us opportunity. What is wrong with our respective governments?
What we need to do is to create. You see, look, we don't have to. Let me come back to retrace back to Ghana sometime past. Okay. They call it when Nkrumah came in, they had a workers' brigade.
Okay.
And these are people that had no jobs. The potential, some of them were trained. Okay. Put them in vocational schools. They trained, and then they start open up agricultural fields. Okay. And get equipment and things. Okay. And by so doing, they were employed. Okay. Some became mechanics, drivers, and just name it. Okay. And that created in their minds the desire to be self-sufficient. Okay? And they were up to today, there are so many farmers with very, very good potentials. You see, what we need to do is, we know the limitation we have in this country. We lack resources. We're depending on taxes and what have you, and little or no income. So we really need to actually, use, direct our little resources, properly, that all will benefit. Okay. We know we cannot satisfy everybody, but we need to decentralize and get out in the
other sectors.
Yeah, and do something. Okay. If nothing there to do, start agriculture. There are places there you can find other good soil and things. Do something. Let's create something that will get them employed. When a man has a source of livelihood, these things that you occupy his mind. They say an idle mind is Satan's playground.
It's a devil workshop.
You see, yes, they set up. They have the vocational schools here. They have the other how do you call it, GTI, GTTI. When they leave the school, where do they go? Where do they go? They come up with a profession, acumen, but that's it. But if we will create the facilities for them, the forum where they can go and do something. They started something very good. They give them vehicles or they give them the motorcycles. But how many of them? There are others. We need to create now. Those who went there to be led electricity. Some of them are carpenters. The government has projects. Instead of giving it awarded to contractors, get someone consultant or so, and let the people do the work and earn something, rather than awarding it. When awarded, some of the contractors, some of the companies come from Senegal, some come from other places, and they bring their own workforce. As opposed to having our people here and getting get the projects and get these people there because they are trained, and let them go there and gain the experience little or no supervision. That will occupy their time. The ground is there. Let them go out in the bush and do some farming. Bring farming implements. Not taking cutlass, the old mechanized. Let's go real mechanized farming. Do something that will. And then there are people there. They had the foundry there at GTTI. They make other things. Do it on a larger scale. The people here making pots and they're selling their living. As opposed to the boys who go and learn. Let them come and make pots too. We have the foundry. Improve it, make it big. And let them make pots, spoons and things. And see if they were big. They nobody want to go. Because you go to Europe, we've been there. We know the situation there. Yeah. You work like a Trojan horse to look like another human. You know it. Some people work 3-4 jobs. You do hardly say, I went to see my son and I don't see him. We only talk on phone. You ask somebody, when last you talk to your brother? Oh, I just talked to him on telephone.
No time.
No time. So we need to create the facilities for them. It's easy to do. We get people that want to investors there. Let them come instead of bringing the physical or money. Let them come and bring the expertise and come and set up these industries for us. And we put our people there. So from the school there, they'll be occupied.
Thank you.
We have people doing something. Yeah. Trying to encourage themselves, and then we'll have more students wanting to go to GTI. But others being to GTI, they come at a zero. Who else want to go? So if the ones that come from GTTI and other vocational centers are well occupied, others will challenge themselves to go.
Thank you. Let's go back to your own country, yes. My own country, Liberia. Yes. We tempered our peace and prosperity some years back, yes. And we were destabilized for 14 consecutive years, if not more than that. And then after that, we've had 3 successive elections. During the Civil War, we lost properties, lives were destroyed, our international reputation was destroyed. But ever since we've had 3 successive elections, nothing has happened to our economy. It has not flourished. Our people remain divided. There is a great line of distinction between the American Liberians and the indigenous Liberians. What is wrong with us?
Well, I would say here, when you lose track of your old footprints, you get in trouble. If you go into the bush,
when you lose track of your old footprint, you get in trouble.
Because if you know where you passed yesterday and you know what you encountered, it wasn't favorable. Definitely, you will not want to pass there.
Need to pass there anymore.
And even if you want to pass there, you'll be a lot more careful.
Where are you coming from?
Fine, but you see, after the Civil War, they put in somebody who himself was a rebel. What do you expect? He has obligated himself to his followers. He had to dance to their tune. So even if he had something good in his mind, he couldn't effectively do it. He had to answer to them first. And when will they be satisfied? Hungry cats. They don't be satisfied. So that is, he danced with their tunes, he went nowhere. And then Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came in with what? She made big move, destroy, flatten Monrovia, we'll build it up again. He came back and only moved and just try to aggrandize herself. And nothing came out of it.
You have a George Weah.
Fine, now George Weah is there. George Weah is being misled by the vice president because they are working to bring Chancellor back. The vice president is Chancellor's wife, present wife. So they are doing everything to bring Chancellor back. So they're only using George Weah as a stooge. And he had to dance with the masses, else he would not gain Chancellor again. So they are playing with him. And the same old people that were in the government, were in the positions, are still there. And the other ones they bring in, these are new dogs who don't know anything. The new goons, they just bring them. They never work in the office. They never been ministers before. They don't even know what it means to be a director. They only come and they're learning. So what time would they learn before they, take over? They should have brought them in to understudy the people, and then after the kid. But they brought them and put them in there. So they're doing trial and error. And we are not learning. And then we have the people, the disgruntled few, who are just like me. They say they've been to school, I went to university, so what you do with your university?
Just paper qualification.
Are we going to write?
Implementation is zero.
We're not going to eat papers.
Not at all.
Let's reinvest our potentials in other ways to make ends meet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kofa. It's been a very beautiful experience with you. He highlights a very key point. And you listen to what I call the conversation, a platform that is meant to talk on social, moral, economic, and political issues affecting our lives, affecting our respective communities, our respective countries, by extension, our one continent, Africa. So, okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, what I want to say to my people here and Africa, for that matter,
okay,
we should not lose our tracks. We disagree and end up in chaos. Nobody win coup, nobody win civil rights, nobody win civil fight. Everybody lose. And then we have to go back 20, 30 years back. We don't progress, we retrogress. And it doesn't help us. So we should be very careful. As we set up or we stand up and say things, mere rhetoric, let's do this, we'll do this. You incite the youth, because they get agitated easily, they get carried away, and in the end, we all suffer.
okay,
We will all bear the brunt of it.
okay,
It'll be a disgrace. It will take us 50 years back.
okay.
They're not going to do anything good for us. So we should watch, sit down and think. Put on our thinking cap. Don't let us be elders, just egocentric,
Okay.
just thinking of themselves.
Okay.
I have been fighting for this ever since, and I must be. Who are you? Are you God? No.
Not at all.
If it's that you train up, groom your child will come and succeed you.
Yeah.
Take over.
Okay.
So it won't be you, but it'll be your child.
Okay.
It'll be your son. You see, it doesn't have to be me.
Okay.
Let be somebody. But the thing is, it must be to the best interest of the whole nation.
Okay.
Civil war, nobody wins. We all losers.
Okay.
Our economy will go down the drain. We don't have resources already, and the higher it will be.
Okay.
The stealing, get name it, all the crime will increase. That when you be lying down in your house and somebody can tell you, get up and go outside, or else I'll kill you, because they want.
At all.
And it will be children selling their parents, and vice versa. So please, let's put on our thinking cap. We shouldn't be rational. We shouldn't be that kind of hasty. What God has said for you will come for you, but at its own time. It will not come before it comes.
Thank you, sir. It's been a beautiful experience with Mr. Kofa, CKA Uncle Joe. He's highlighted key points. Nationally in the Gambia, he spoke about the political friction between the coalition team and the national government. The masses also saying that President Adam Barrow respects the 3-year gentleman agreement. On the other hand, the government is wanting to complete the mandate of 5 years. So he's saying that the best option is to have a national dialogue, and you should learn from the bitter experience of other nations that have protested and agitated, and the nation suffers. No one wins. So it is important that we cultivate a habit of peace, sit on the round table and have a very frank discussion and see the best way forward, but in the name of peace. He also spoke about Liberia and South Africa, that those who are not educationally conscientized are the ones involved in the xenophobia in that country. So it is important that Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, take very drastic steps and ensure that his people understand or retrace the steps that all of Africa was there when you struggled, when you needed to have been liberated, especially Nigeria. There is no need to call another African brother foreigner residing in your own country. We are all one continent, one people, one destiny. Beautiful experience. Peace is a word. This is Sembiance VIP magazine / Sembiance TV, and it has been the conversation with Thony Mikel Howard, your presenter. Thank you very much. Catch us next week. Bye-bye.
xam ko bu baax ni yu daal yaa may liggéey civilian bi li ngay wax moom wala boog li nga nekkee ànd nga xool ba nga xamee ni yu daal yaa may liggéey journaliste bi li ngay wax moom wala boog li lay wax loo ànd nga xool ba nga xamee you daal yaa may liggéey artiste bi li ngay woy moom wala boog li lay woy loo ànd nga ko xool ba nga xamee ni you daal yaa may liggéey li ngay wax xam ko li ngay def mën ko li ngay woy xam ko li ngay wax xam ko